that use cutting-edge techniques and knowledge from the field of geology, but also other fields, but mainly it's from geology. And from these sorts of techniques, we get results such as visual characteristics, color, translucency, density, minerals, and elementary composition. From these results, we gather information such as the different qualities of raw material, the type of sediments, the environment in which these rocks are made, and eventually how the original sediments became solid rocks. The comparative study of these information, which normally we gather between raw materials and the lithics, allows us to identify the differences between raw materials and eventually connect lithics with their rock sources. The fundamental principle for this approach is that it is impossible from different raw materials to provide us exactly the same information. And to show an example of how this approach works, I'll present now parts of my PhD that I conducted on Malta, and where I study Neolithic lithic assemblages. This PhD was part under the umbrella of Petros project, which was an ERC funding project that studied the Neolithic civilization of Malta. Before going forward to the approach, some background information is necessary. So Malta is a group of islands that lies in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea, as you can see in the map. And during the late Neolithic, large-scale monuments known as stone temples were built. An example of this is Nidra, which is found on Malta, and Gigantia, which is found on the smallest island of Gozo. The latter is actually a UNESCO European Heritage Site, which further highlights the importance of studying these islands to understand even the prehistoric history, the prehistory of Europe, to be exact. Here are some pictures showing the structure of these monuments, the internal design, but also other stylistic and decoration features, as you can observe here. My research, but also the project itself, focused mainly on 6 Neolithic sites on the islands, and from which I studied the lithic assemblages. And this slide shows the period of occupation or activity on these sites throughout the Neolithic period, to have a brief idea of what in timeline we're talking about. The archaeological research have found many tools and artifacts within these sites. Most of the artifacts related with local formation, example of which you can see in these pictures. Many artifacts, however, were not related from local material, and they must have been imported. Some examples you can see in this picture right here, but also here. To answer from where they're coming from, as you can see in the map, is not a straightforward answer. The theory suggested that the potential origin of these materials was from Sicily, but this theory was based just that Sicily was the closest other land in the region. So it hasn't been proven and need to be tested. Similar was the theory about the local material. It was just based on macroscopic characteristics. It was never been tested or examined to find the scientific or conclusive evidence to support our theories. And my fieldwork basically studied the local material of Malta, but also in Sicily. And for this presentation, I will show you 2 examples. And the strategy for this presentation again will be use microscopy and mineralogy as a guide to connect artifacts with possible raw materials, and then bring geochemistry to test this link. The first one is to test the hypothesis of local exploitation. These are some typical artifacts lithics that they consider of local. And in the bottom two pictures, you can see what was the local material, the local chert, as they call it. On the table, you can see the visual and mineralogical common characteristics between these two groups. Moving now to geochemistry, I have to say that these models are based on geological and geochemical theories, and also a lot of statistical process. For this presentation, however, to make it as simple as possible, I will focus to confirm or not the matching between them. But if you have any other questions about that, we can discuss it later, or there's definitely a lot of literature about it to explain a lot of these details. And this is important because it's not just random statistical process. They are based on theories and models of geology that can help us to make even the statistics kind of legit, not the estimation by humans. So in the first diagram, where we study the type of sediments, we see in this diagram that all of the local raw materials and most of the artifacts we consider actually local are gathered over here, not only on the same type of sediments, but also in a specific region of our diagram, which increase the compatibility of them. The next diagram, we study the environment. Again, all of our local material and the majority of the lithics of that group falls exactly in the same type of environment. And the final diagram for this presentation, it's focused on these specific elements we can see in the bottom of the diagram. These elements are considered rare earth elements. The importance of them and why we're studying them is based on that their concentration and the ratio between them is strictly affected of the local conditions of the material where it's found. So raw materials from different localities will not present the same patterns and ratios. And as you can see, that the local chert and these artifacts have almost identical pattern on this diagram. So we have enough proof to confirm the original hypothesis about the local exploitation. The next example is related with these two lithics. To simplify, we can say it's just black material. This is imported because none such material is found on Malta, so they must come in from somewhere else. On the right, you see different outcrops of similar materials that are located in Sicily. And on this table is their common characteristics. A challenge that this example has is that these different outcrops are scattered to different areas of Sicily. And this is because Sicily is a big island. So be able to distinguish or be able to exclude some of the sources could be significant on the future theories about interaction between communities and societies. Starting again and employing exactly the same models, we see that there are artifacts, which are highlighted with a blue color, are more compatible in terms of sediments with some of the rocks from southeast Sicily, while it seems there is no relationship with Monte Giudica, which is in the center of Sicily, and west of Sicily. Similar is the findings on the environment, and again we see they are more compatible with southeast Sicily. And finally, on the last diagram for this presentation, again we see that artifacts have more similar patterns and concentration of these elements only with the southeast Sicilian raw materials, which help us not just confirming the importation of these specific artifacts from Sicily, either as raw material or as made lithics, but narrow down the possible options from where these raw materials came. And this could have multiple applications in other contexts and in other regions, such as the mainland of Europe, because this allows us, Malta is a small island and also has restrictions through the sea. In the mainland of Europe, we don't have these restrictions, so it's not easy for us just visualizing or hypothesizing which sources we should look at or not. And we have this method that can help us. And this is something we tried recently to do in the Balkans. And until now, I'm working basically in two main projects. The first region is found in North Bosnia, north of Banja Luka, as you can see in the map. Basically, the work is happening from this region over here. The importance of this region is that from surveys in 2007, if I remember correctly, they have been found more than 200 upper Paleolithic open sites, which is really bizarre considering especially the climatic conditions of this period in history. An additional interest is that contemporary sites from the broader region are mainly found in caves. So it's very interesting to see what happened and they select this location and what was the choices or what were the conditions that led them to have open sites in this region. And one way to study them is through their lithic assemblance, because we have found a very abundant lithics collection and with variety, at least macroscopically, visually, you can see that they have a lot of varieties, which meaning potentially that they were using different sources. Here are more examples of the materials they have found. These actually is the ones I recently studied in a museum of archaeology in Banja Luka, and I have done a brief macroscopic grouping. On the top you see something that's between black or greenish black material. On the right you see different, possibly different types of red flint. And on the bottom is another different variety closer to the red, but it has this characteristic double color. I could say that I'm kind of lucky for this slide, because if you remember, it was yesterday or 2 days ago that Raina showed you some flakes we found on the field and did some presentation. So if you remember, a lot of the findings were related either with the black material or this red one. So it could be indication, or although we're talking for different periods in time, that they were using similar raw materials from the region. So any finding from that one could connect with the region here. So you see that also an important thing, that you create a database information about raw material which could help other archaeological sites or other archaeological periods without even knowing on the time you are doing this work. This is an excellent example of I believe one of the most beautiful and exciting findings they had. I think this was in Tessa Museum, which is a bit south from Banja Luka, and I think they found it on a surface exploration by accident. So you can see how wealthy is this period in this region in terms of archaeological interest. The second project is in central Serbia, Middle Morava Valley, where along the Morava River there have been found a lot of Neolithic sites. I just put the ones I have been studying more or less. There are plenty of more. And for this project I'm working, key site is Drenovac, especially for the Neolithic of at least the central Balkans. It has two main periods of occupation: early Neolithic and late Neolithic. You here call it Chatzimpaloglou culture and Vincent culture. And the importance, among others, of this site is that the late Neolithic houses are considered the best preserved in Europe. Example of which you can see in this picture, which is basically the archaeological site, and you see the four houses, with especially this one. You can see they are found intact, all the pottery. And actually here, these are evidence that they were doing a type of fishing on the river. Here are more pictures of the site, but also of the figurines they found, which are very characteristic. These are very characteristic of the Vincent culture. So which, if if I remember correctly, the Vinca cult has been spread throughout the Danube River. So any work on that will have more implication, and my work once again is related with their lithic collection. As you can see, her collection is more diverse. It doesn't have the same similarities as before, and shows that provenance investigation for this site will be even more beneficial to understand better this very important site, but also the Neolithic of Serbia. And even having a broader picture of the work, you see that these sites are in a key location in the Southeast Europe, and considering that is actually they are very near to the Danube River, which have been throughout the history a corridor of migration, mobility in general, expansion of civilization. So these are sites to give us a lot of information, not just for the region, but even for the broader region until the center of Europe. And considering the implication of possible mobility patterns, these works could greatly advance our knowledge about the societies of the past.